and welcome to the YouTube channel. Yesterday we did a live where I showed you how to add a NetApp evaluation image to EVNG. I also showed you how to configure it and bring it up in a cluster. And today, instead of doing a live and wasting time on doing almost the same thing, because everything we'll be doing will be the same except from the initial stage and at the ending stage of adding that particular node to a cluster, I decided to do a video as a follow-up video. So in this video, I'll be adding a new node to the cluster and join that particular node to the existing cluster. So I already have this one in the cluster, so we'll do the one we did yesterday is still already in the cluster. That can come up. Value cluster show. We have it in the cluster, and you also confirm that in the system manager. This is already in the cluster. So let me turn on the new node. That's a cluster 1 node 2 image. And one of the things you have to do in the initial stage, which we didn't do yesterday, is to change the serial number on the evaluation image so it doesn't conflict with this particular one that we already configured yesterday. So let me turn this one up. So one of the things said enter to boot immediately or press a key for command prompt. I'm just going to press any key. This will take me to the loader and I'm going to set some boot args. So the first one is change the serial number. Event serial number 4034 389 0.06/2. That's serial number. And now we're going to set that in the boot arg. Unfortunately, using a tab doesn't work when you are doing things in the boot arg. You have to type everything manually yourself. 4034 389 0.62. And that is done. And the next thing is just tell the node to be boot. We'll wait for a few minutes while the node boots up. So while the node is booting up, one of the initiative and the reason why I decided to do this video is to help people that are preparing for the NetApp certification exam. This gives you a platform or a way for you to practice the different topics when you're studying for the NetApp certification. So you don't need to have a physical NetApp gear to do your testing, or so you can just build this up in a lab and it will help you master the topics, master the syntax and the different concepts. So you should boot up, you should finish booting up in a few more minutes. So every other thing we're going to do from here up until the stage where we're joining the node to the cluster is going to be the same like we did yesterday. So if you have already done what we did yesterday on the live, this is just a way for you to refresh. Solidify your understanding of what we did yesterday. So it's really booting now. He has his own management IP address. So and that's still logged in. And that's we see here it's not currently showing in the cluster. Let me just refresh that. While it's refreshing, let me log into this and enable the second interface in for the cluster interface. So like I said yesterday, network interface show only have one interface in the cluster, and we are supposed to have two interfaces for cluster in the cluster vServer. So first and second interfaces are for cluster, and the third one is for management, while the remainders are for data network. So if I do network port show, everything are in the default, the first two are for cluster interfaces. The second one, the third one is for management, while the remaining three is for data network. So let me add the second one that is currently not in the cluster IP space into the cluster IP space now. So, so create vServer, put it in the cluster IP space. I will name the leaf cluster 1A. The home port is going to be the EOA because that's the first one, and the role is going to be cluster, while the address is going to be in the same subnet as this one. So I just name 192.169.230.157. Yesterday I used net mask. Today I'm going to show you that you can also use the net length. So net length of 16, because slash that's a slash 16. Oh, plus 11. Everything just tab it across. And once that is done, I will do the net interface show. You see that we have all the two interfaces, EOA and EOB, in the cluster IP space. Then it's time for us to jump. So I will go to node 1 is already in the cluster. In the cluster, node 2 is what we want to join to that particular cluster. So I'll do cluster join cluster IP address 169.254.0.1, and I'm going to give it an admin user, and I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to add for my admin user for that particular cluster. And it's going to attempt to join it to a cluster. It's checking the node. Yeah, send the node, and now it's trying to add it to that particular cluster. So we didn't do this yesterday because this particular node is actually the prime cluster, and we didn't have to add another node. So it's just the initiator of the cluster. So once this is done, we should see that particular cluster initiated in. Yeah, so it is part of the cluster now. Before we were just saying one, now we have both of them in the cluster. and we can see that it's starting the cluster service. If I run cluster show here, yeah, it has added to the cluster, but it has not done, just like we said here. So it's done now. Then let me run that again. Cluster show, and both nodes are in a cluster. So that's not the end, because we now have to add the disk to this particular node. So I'll say storage disk assign all through node 2. Then I will allocate the disk accordingly, the disk space accordingly. So let me run local snap delete the volume 0 snap schedule volume 0. Now exit that, and I'll assign create and aggregate. So volume modify B server server O2 volume 0 minus size. I will attempt to add 1 gig of volume, which is going to push out and give me the maximum I can add, which is basically the 934 megabytes here. And that is done. And if I do network interface show, it says all my cluster interfaces and all my management interface. Another thing let me show you here. This is the device, and let's show the disk. Yeah, the disk. So you have node 1 has its own disk assigned to it, and let me show you the node 2 had its own disk attached to it. So at the moment, we're just doing the basic configuration. We've not done any form of node aggregates. We've done the aggregate, but we've not done any form of creating a NFS or an S3 volume, S3 bucket or anything. This is just basic networking at the start. So, and we have the cluster interfaces, and the management interface. So to validate that what you've done is actually working, there are few configuration change, there are few steps you can do just to make it a little bit so we can see it very well. Let me do an SSH admin to the management interface, to the cluster management IP address 29.129.61, which is the cluster management IP address, and 60 cluster management IP address. Yes, give it my password. I'm just going to enlarge that. And let me increase the font. Okay, so here are some basic checks you can do in your device. Let me get to the diag. So network, discover device, discovery show, that shows the cluster network and every other network that you are currently connected to. So if you have a data connectivity, it's going to show you the data connectivity. This is our cluster switch. And you can also do network port show. It shows you the ports for each of the nodes in the cluster. So if you have 20 nodes in the cluster, it's going to show you all the ports for each of the nodes per cluster. So you're going to see the port name, the IP space they currently belong to, the broadcast domain they belong to, the status of the link, the MTU currently configured on the interface, and the speed, if it's LT or not, and if you decide to ignore the status. You can also do network interface show. So it also shows you the interfaces, the cluster interfaces, and the IP address. So you can also do network interface check cluster connectivity show. Yeah, it shows you the leaves and when they were created. Another thing you can do is do a ping, a cluster ping. So it's basically going to ping across the different interfaces and see if it has reachability to the different leaves across the different interfaces. So let me show you what it's going to do. So it's going to, you're going to have something like cluster ping cluster node, and we're going to start saying this pinging from node 1, and it's going to ping across all the different interfaces to different leaves. So let's see that. So it's like basically basic connectivity successful across 4 parts. Remember, we have 4 parts: one, two from node 1 and 2 from node 2. And same thing across you're seeing this failure because you're using an evaluation image. If you're using the physical box, you wouldn't see this large part empty communication field. Another thing you can do is show route. Route shows you the default route to your management IP address. If you want to see, if it was a physical device and you want to see the kind of NIC or kind of, or what's your physical attribute on your interface on your system is, you do run sys local config and say. So this is going to show you different configuration on your device interfaces. So it's going to show you kind of NIC, the kind of transceiver you're using, but this is just an evaluation image. That's why it's showing us this basic. Now, what else can I show you? Oh, let me see if this is available. Look at if starts ZEOA. Yeah, it is not available in physical on, yeah. So yeah, that's it for the perspective of joining a node to a cluster using the vSIM. If you have any question, feel free to drop me a message, drop a comment, and if you find this helpful, kindly drop a like, share, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Thank you.